Hello everybody, I'm NewKid from the Spicy Noise Boys, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to win the early game in Teamfight Tactics. A little background on me before we begin. I'm currently in the top 1% of players in Teamfight Tactics, and I'm currently on the path to becoming Grandmaster. My strengths in game are definitely in econ management and in adaptation, which I'll be making separate videos on both topics. Teamfight Tactics early game is one of the most explosive parts of the entire game. Even though you don't have that many resources yet, it is the time in the game you want to buy and sell the most. In the first carousel, you want to choose a tier 2 character with a universally good item. The champion typically doesn't matter because in most games you're going to want to sell your first champion so you can buy more 1 cost in hopes to get a 2-star before the PvP. Aim for a good starting item instead of a good champion, something that even if you don't get a good combo with, you're still going to walk away with solid raw stats. Personally, when I draft, I prioritize BF or recurve, then a tier, needless or giant's belt, and finally chain vest and Negatron cloak. BF and recurve give you a lot of extra DPS on your auto attacks, which are super important early game, and a lot of good comps are auto attack dependent. Tier gives you 20 extra mana to get an ult off earlier, and needless gives you 20% more spell power, which is great, but not too many 1-cost champions have great damage ults. Giant's belt giving raw health is good, but I typically find offense is better than defense early. Chain vest and Negatron cloak are pretty weak starting items, but still give a little bit more defense, but they're trash. They're trash. The first 3 rounds of the game are pretty simple. Use your tier 2 to beat the first fight, sell your tier 2 and buy all the tier 1s you can, try to get a 2-star by the time PvP starts. Now, it's important to mention that you should never reroll during the first 3 rounds because there's no need to waste your economy. In general, you want to avoid rerolling through all parts of the game, but there will be times where you will have to do it. This is absolutely not one of those times. Don't do it. It's also important to say that there are exceptions to selling your tier 2 character. If you have a Lucian with a cursed blade and you get a Garen and a Fiora in the first round, absolutely keep him. This game has a heavy emphasis on adaptation, so use your best discretion. Now that the PvP has started, things get a little bit more tricky. There are a couple of solid strategies that you can go with depending on what items and characters you got. The win streak. The win streak strategy is simple but not always achievable. Essentially what you want to do is start winning, using all of your resources to make sure you win every single round up until Krugs. In the first round of PvP, you typically want to buy a level up and use the 4 characters you have to push yourself into winning the first couple of rounds. Then you want to spend 8 gold to level up to level 5 to secure your win streak, while getting all the 2-stars you can. The pros to this strategy is you choke your opponents out by winning, making them feel that they need to catch up. You gain 2 gold per round after your second victory, effectively giving you 7 GPR very early. The cons to this strategy are mainly in how risky it can be. If you blow all your early econ to make sure you win, you have very little room for error. If you lose even 1 round, your econ is thrown out the window and you'll instantly be in a disadvantaged state. On top of that, if you lose later in the rounds, not only your econ will be ruined, but you will also draft later in the carousel, and you might not get the item that you need to make your team strong again. Win streaking is a good way to win the early game, but it's definitely the most risky. Only commit to doing this if you have at least 2 2-star champions with an applicable item or a strong early synergy. The economy strat. The economy strat is a good way to go if you didn't get any really strong characters in the first 3 rounds. The basics of the economy strat are to save as much money as you can until Krugs. Don't spend any money on rerolls or experience. With this strategy, you want to try to buy as many 1-cost champions as you can each round, trying to get a 2-star using the champ's boosted stats to carry you through. Don't worry about type bonuses, just focus on getting those 2-star characters. A key thing that you'll want to do is sell. If you're at 8 or 9 gold, sell champions you don't have multiples of, that way you can get that interest gold. The interest is a key part of the econ strat, because it will give you a significant gold advantage going into the mid game. Now with no rerolls and no experience bought, you should have about 40 gold at the Krugs fight. That's a huge gold lead on your opponents who've been spending all their money. Now that you're at Krugs, spend anywhere from 10 to 20 gold getting experience and doing rerolls to build up your team to be a big bunch of beefy boys. The pros. Gives you a lot of money to launch yourself into a strong mid game. It gives you time to see what your opponents have been building and gives you ample time to counter it. Typically, since you'll have lost a couple of rounds with this strat, you'll be able to draft in the first or second turn of the carousel and secure the item that you want. Cons. This strat is going to make you lose health. You're not going to win in terms of skirmishes, and instead you'll be winning the macro game. There is some danger in the Krugs fight if you can't get at least 2 2-star characters, a fight that you absolutely don't want to lose. Number 3. The balanced. The last method to win the early game is to do a balance of win streaking and having good gold economy. Typically, if you're playing more balanced, then you'll want to buy a level up in the first PvP round and try to win the first couple of rounds without over-investing. Don't do multiple rerolls and prioritize building a solid economy. Make sure to hit 10 gold to start building interest and never drop below this number. Once you do that, you can spend your money as you see fit to try to win as many rounds as you can without throwing away your econ. This is a great way to go if you're not feeling confident in your first couple champs or items. Pros. One of the safest strats. You can easily be middle of the pack or even top 2 if you're lucky by Krugs. Gives you good resources for the mid game with a little flexibility. Cons. You'll rarely get a commanding lead this way. This is much more of a safe win and will require more effort in the mid game. This strat falls very flat if your opponents are being very aggressive and will put you at a real disadvantage in the mid game. Hey guys, over the next couple of months we're going to bring you some really solid Teamfight Tactics content, so make sure to like and subscribe, that way you can keep up to date on all that stuff. Anyways guys, until next time, keep it spicy, okay? Out!